We need to do something about what happened in Tulsa.
There cannot be any justice till there is proper respect, restitution, and repair.
We have him here, DB.
Good. I'm about to be on the radio.
Mr. Nelson, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Welcome to the show, Mr. Nelson. We got Stanley Nelson on the line with us right now.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome.
Welcome to our show. We really appreciate you coming on. You've done so much amazing work in your career, you know, and I've been a fan of yours without even knowing it was you. You know, Freedom Riders, Jonestown, The Life and Death of People's Temple. I watched that. Sweet Honey in the Rock, Raise Your Voice, The Murder of Emmett Till. I watched a lot of your work and didn't realize that it was you, so forgive me, sir, but it's an honor to have you on this show.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Let's talk about this. You know, a lot of folks, what we found talking about the Tulsa burning, the 1921 race massacre, we found out, Mr. Nelson, that a lot of people weren't aware of what happened in Tulsa. Did you find that to be true as you started to build on this documentary?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the pieces of the story is that the massacre was completely covered up, so that the black paper was burnt out, and was not publishing, and the white papers did not report on the massacre at all. It wasn't taught in Oklahoma schools. It wasn't taught, in Oklahoma universities, so much less anywhere else in the country. So it's not surprising in many ways that so many people don't know about the massacre.
How about when did you learn about it? How did you learn about it? Did you learn about it at school? Was it your parents that told you?
I can't remember when I first learned, but it was probably it was after school. Schools, I mean, I've been making documentary films for about 40 years now. So, and many historical documentaries. So, in researching the documentaries, I learned a little bit about the massacre. Then, about 3 years ago, we did a film called The Boss about black entrepreneurship. It covered kind of 150 years from the Civil War up until today. And at that point, we did a 7-minute segment in the film about Tulsa, about the race massacre. And at that point, I realized that it was a much larger story than can be covered in 7 minutes. And it really was a story that deserved to be its own film. And I became very interested in making this film.
Yeah, and we're very grateful that you did, Mr. Nelson. This is Tracy. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Would you mind going into how you navigate the research for this and just how much and where it came from?
Yeah, I mean, I think that really what's interesting about the story of Tulsa and Greenwood and the massacre is that there is so much documentation. There's so much footage. So Greenwood was probably the biggest and the baddest and the best of the African American towns in the West. And someone in the community, in 1919, 1920, at the beginning of 1921, with a movie camera filmed, African Americans, sitting on their swings outside their homes and building their churches and their businesses. And also there were great still pictures of the community. So one of the things that it made possible was for audiences, of the film to really see the community, not just talk about it. But also, people took pictures and film of the aftermath of the massacre. So you see the town flattened. You see the white mob with guns approaching Greenwood. So that's really amazing because you don't see very much of African Americans that early on, except when they would go to a photographer and get all dressed up in their best clothes and pose. But these are films and still pictures of the community. So that was really essential. But the other thing, is the film. It goes back and forth in time. So it's about the building of Greenwood and the destruction of Greenwood in 1921, but also about today. We made the film over the last year. So we made the film in the shadow of George Floyd and the protests and Black Lives Matter, and that's essential to the story. And also, in 2020, the City of Tulsa started excavating and looking for remains of African Americans who were killed in the massacre, because many African Americans were dumped in mass graves and unmarked graves. And so the ongoing with the film about 1921 is another film, rolled into one of looking for the remains in 2020 and 2021.
What made you? By the way, we have Stanley Nelson is on the line with the citizens. You want to talk to him? He's one of the directors of the Tulsa burning, the 1921 race massacre. It's on the History Channel right now, and then also the doc originally aired on May 30th. But those, if you missed it, you can catch up on history.com. If you have cable, it'll be on through June 29th, and then you can catch it on Hulu starting June 30th, and it'll be aired as a 2-part series. What made you decide to do this documentary?
Well, so many things. I mean, one, it's such an important story. It's such an unknown story. We knew when we started over a year ago that the 100th anniversary was coming up. The 100th commemoration, it's not really an anniversary. Anniversary kind of implicates or implies, celebration, but it's the commemoration of the massacre. As we started, we realized that it had so many echoes with today, with where African Americans are today, with the murder of George Floyd and so many other murders that have taken place over the last years.
Okay, Stanley Nelson is with us. DB, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, sure. Stanley, as a filmmaker these days, I feel like you have somewhat more challenges than filmmakers did prior to social media and the internet and things of that nature, with attention spans being so low, and you also have these sites with aggregated reviews that some people may or may not pay attention to. And so I wanted to know, do you find it challenging to get younger audiences to want to watch these informative historical documentaries? Some people don't even want to sit through something like Avengers Endgame because it's 3 hours. So is it tough to find a way, and I hate to call it entertaining, but a way for younger audiences to want to watch these types of documentaries?
I don't think so. I mean, I think one of the missions of documentary filmmakers is to also to entertain, and to hold an audience. I think it's a riveting story. I think that a lot of times we give younger people, younger generation, kind of a short shrift, and we talk about their attention span. But I think younger people go to movies, or used to go to movies, watch movies on TV, and again, one of our missions as filmmakers, and one of the things that I hold dearly is that we're also trying to entertain. We're trying to tell an honest, real story, well documented story, but also we know that people are sitting there with the remote control in their hand and can go to reruns of Luke Cage or Friends or whatever they want to watch, at the click of a button. So that's part of what we hold dear. No, I don't really subscribe to the fact that younger people aren't interested. I think younger people really are, and really interested in history, and really it's kind of mirrored with so many young people out in the streets over the last year.
Okay. This is a great documentary, by the way, citizens, so make sure you check it out.
Yes.
Tulsa Burning, the 1921 Race Massacre. We're speaking with Peabody and Emmy Award-winning director Stanley Nelson. And recently we saw President Biden call on Americans to face what he called dark sides of history on the anniversary of the Tulsa Massacre. And the White House also announced Tuesday that the administration has taken several steps aimed at narrowing the racial wealth gap. In your opinion, just seeing so much and documenting so much, it's rare that we see any presidents acknowledge what took place in Tulsa. How big was that for him to actually be there and make these comments?
I mean, I think it's big. I think in so many ways, it draws the interest of certain sections of population that might not know the story of Greenwood and the story of Tulsa, or might not think that they're interested. So that when Biden goes there, it has to be covered. It has to be covered. By MSNBC, CNN, and ABC, CBS, and NBC, the networks. And also hopefully it's covered by Fox News. I'm not sure if it is, but hopefully it is. So I think that it's a good thing. And what happened in Tulsa, the massacre, I think needs to be attacked from all different sides, right? So people learned about it from watching, Watchmen. People learned about it from watching Lovecraft Country. People learn about it from our doc. People learn about it because Biden goes there. So I think it's all good and it's all needed and it's all relevant. We can't, I don't think, talk too much about what happened in Tulsa, because it's not only Tulsa. It says so much about this country. And it wasn't only Tulsa that was burnt out. It was so many other African American communities and African American businesses. Tulsa is really important because it was probably the worst racial massacre of African Americans in this country. But it happened over and over again, with communities or with single businesses being destroyed or African Americans being just driven out of business because of jealousy. And so the more we learn and know about it, the better.
Okay. We got a call on the line from Oklahoma who used to live in Tulsa, goes by the name of Floyd. Floyd, Grand Risings.
Hey, Floyd.
Hey, how you guys doing? Sway, Heather, DB, Tracy, love you guys.
Love you too.
Long-time listener. Sway, I remember being a teenager watching you on MTV Rap saying, hey, man, there's somebody that looks like me. So I appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I watched the different documentaries. I think it's an awesome thing, getting the education out there, the awareness. One thing as being a professional black that I saw that I wish I could have seen them do more of is speak and at least put the microphone and allow them to say no comment of the people who are actually in power in this state. Senators Inhofe, Rep. Tom Cole, Mark Mullaney, some of the different congressional reps and some of the different senators, because they're the ones who actually wield the power in the state to first acknowledge it and then also bring about some actual change. So I just, with all the awareness, having the celebrities, having the intellectuals talk about it, bring awareness, speaking to the survivors, to the family members, I just wish that we would put the microphone in front of the people that actually have power. We know which way they lean, and they may not, for whatever reason, want to discuss it, but kind of forcing them to either say something about it or not say anything about it, I think would speak volumes.
That's interesting.
Did you have any conversations with any of the senators here in the state or with the reps while you were filming this documentary? Did you reach out to them?
Yeah, I mean, the documentary really isn't about, what's happening in the state in terms of reparations or the state commissions, because that's kind of, a shifting sand. It's changing every day. And so that, we have to lock the documentary, months ago, or a month ago at least, to put it on. So that's really not the focus of the doc. But there's been a lot of articles and a lot has been said in the past week or so about where the state is, and the commission, and kind of the infighting that's going on with it. But that's really not the focus of the documentary.
Okay.
Sure.
Hey, Floyd, but I like your point, though. I like
Same.
your point. And maybe that's a documentary you got to start.
I would love to. I would love to.
Okay. Stanley busy. All right. You're a citizen, though, Floyd.
Sway in the morning.
Mr. Nelson, I want to say thank you again for being on the show. This was great work. We've been trying to really drive people to watch Tulsa Burning, the 1921 Race Massacre. And then also, I got a chance to really meet and sit down and do an interview with the philanthropist, Russell Westbrook. I'm curious to how did he get involved?
He was involved early on. I mean, one of the things that Russell said was that, that was the film that he wanted to make when he began his production company, and he had spent so many years in Oklahoma, and so that he was really a driving force. He was on the film before I got attached to it. And, I think that Russell's name opened a lot of doors when we were shopping the film around, and we finally landed on the History Channel. But I think that, Russell was really instrumental in getting the film made.
Okay. Tracy, you good?
Yeah, well, before Mr. Nelson pieces out, I want to see if I can squeeze in one thing. I'm curious, when you have to do such a deep dive into a massacre, or any other dark side of American history, do you have to do any preparations for your mental health? Because there's potential that you can be triggered by something, or do you allow your emotions to be a team member in a project?
I think one of the things, as a filmmaker, is that the filmmaker side of me takes over. Mm-hmm. I'm telling a story, and I'm telling a story that happened 100 years ago, and I'm just trying to tell it with as much accuracy and emotion as I possibly can. I'm trying to, we want people to be moved by the film. We want audiences to be moved, and so we're kind of concentrating on that. And so, in a way, it's not really triggering me. In a way, I'm just so honored to be able to tell this story, and I think that I feel like it's such a not a burden, but it's really necessary that I tell it, in an emotional way, in an accurate way. So I have to get out of the way of myself and let the story take over.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Stanley Nelson, big round of applause for him, director of the documentary, along with Marco Williams, Tulsa Burning, the 1921 Race Massacre, on the History Channel. You can also go to history.com if you have cable to be on through June 29th, and then you can catch it on Hulu starting June 30th. It'll be a 2-part series.
Nice.
Mr. Nelson, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you and your work.
Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, absolutely. Continued success, man. And next project, we'll have you on again, brother. All right?
All right.
My man. Give it up for Stanley Nelson, Citizens. Come on.